Hey everyone, I'm a huge fan of using forms to add opportunities to Pipedrive rather than having your sales rep use the add deal function for a number of reasons. One, it allows you to make fields required without having to pay for the upgraded Pipedrive license. Two, you can eliminate noise of certain fields that are available by default that you're not able to turn off to the add deal view. You can also set up rules for deal routing that otherwise you would have to teach your sales reps, and it might be difficult for them to remember and to always follow. And then finally, it allows you to have full control over your data structure, which allows you to ensure you're preventing duplicates as much as possible and have the best data available for reporting. So this demo is going to be how you can use a Google form to add opportunities to Pipedrive, but this can be applied for whatever form tool you're using, whether it's Gravity Forms, Typeform, or something altogether different. So let's say you tell your sales rep you always want deals entered with a name, company, email, source, and proposal type. That may not be too difficult, so I'm going to complete those fields here. So I have the name, organization, email, title, which auto-populates. Then down below, I have the source and the proposal type. But you can see here there's other fields that don't need to be completed, but I'm not able to take them out of the add deal view because they are system standard fields. And let's take this one step further and say that you're looking to have your deal title structured in a certain way, and you also want the deal value and the pipeline and stage to vary based on the proposal type. Now, this is a lot you are teaching your sales reps just to add a deal to the pipeline, when if you were doing this via a form, they would just have to put in the 5 inputs and automation could do the rest. So just to show you kind of what this would look like, if we wanted users to do this manually and we wanted the deal title structured as the person's name and then the organization or company, and then the proposal type, so type in mapping here, that's just updating the title. Then let's say that if it's mapping or implementation, the value is 8,500, but if it is our retainer, it's only 5,000. So if this were selected, then the deal value would need to be 5,000. And then also we have a standard pipeline and we have a retained pipeline, and depending on the inputs, you would want it in one of those pipelines or the other. That's a lot for your sales reps to remember. So I'm going to save this so it's here. So you can see we've got our deal title nice and formatted, our value, and then we've got that information input here. So it looks great, but again, a lot for your sales reps to remember. As a point of comparison here, I have this form. So we just need the user to input name, email, company, how the client or potential client heard about us, and then the type of proposal they are requesting. When the user completes these 5 questions, we can do all of the rest of the deal creation via automation, and we'll even check for duplicates prior to creating the company and the person, so that you're ensuring you have better data for the long term in terms of duplicates as well. So when starting an automation, I always like to first submit data in the form, because then you're looking at real data in the automation when you go to build. So I'm going to go ahead and complete these inputs here. So here are all of my inputs. I've done everything the same, except in this one, I just put that we are requesting a retainer so that we can see that come through via automation in a different pipeline. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And then over in Zapier, you're going to start to build your automation. So here I'm going to click to create a new Zap. And then my trigger is going to be that we got a new Google Form response. So I'm going to select the Google Form app, then new form response. And then I'm going to select the form. Test trigger, and I should see that new response come in here. So you can see these inputs, those don't look like what I put in. There's another response, so I can go to form response A, and these are the inputs that I just entered. So that's great. That's the test data I wanted to pull in. So I click continue, and then because I have a company here, which you won't always have if you are a B2C company, you may not be using organizations at all. That's totally fine. But because I have a company, I'm going to, as a first step, find or create the organization. So in Pipedrive, I'm going to find an organization. And then it's going to ask me what field I want to use as my search field. And I'm going to use the name. That's all I have as a search term for the organization. So I'm going to search by the name, and I'm going to use the input of company. So Anderson's Monumental will be the search term. Yes, I want to search for an exact match, and no, it should not be a success when nothing is found, because I actually am going to do this as find or create. So I'm going to check this box to create an organization if one doesn't exist. And then the organization input is simply going to be that company name. Again, that's all the data that I have about it. So I'm going to click continue. And then I'm going to test this action. And this one should actually find an organization because it's the same as the one I manually entered. So it's this organization. If I click to open this organization, it's organization ID 64. So I'm going to test this action, and it should say, hey, we found one. It's organization 64. So here it is. It says ID 64. Great. That's working how I want. Now I want to create the person or find the person. So I'm going to do Pipedrive as my app, and then I'm going to do find person. And then here for person, if you have email, that is a way better search term to use than name. So I'm going to use email as my search term, and my input is going to be that email that was entered in the form. These stay the same. And yes, I want to create a person if they don't yet exist. And then here I'm going to do the name. So Amy Anderson, and then the organization, I'm going to link it to the organization from step 2. So I go to custom and then put the ID in here. And then I also get an email from that form. So I'm going to get that email address. And that's all the information I have about the person. So I'm going to click continue. And then same as with the organization, we should find this person 126. So I'm going to test my action. And here we see a found person 126. Fabulous. That's exactly what we wanted. Now I get to the create deal step, and I always want to create a deal. If my sales reps completed this form, there should be a new sales opportunity created. I'm not going to try to prevent any duplicates in this case. But here's when we get into some of the complexity. If the proposal type is retainer, we want it to be in the retainer pipeline. If it's mapping or implementation, we want it to be in a different pipeline. So here, rather than just creating a deal, I'm going to start by creating a path, and then there will be 2 different paths that this could follow in order to create that deal. So I'm going to rename this to proposal type is retainer. And this one, proposal type is mapping/implementation. All right, so now I'm going to go into the path. So what are the conditions that a deal should come into the retainer path? It's if the proposal type is retainer. So I'm going to go and get the, let's see here. So this one, retainer. So if this question contains or exactly matches would be fine, retainer. So I'm going to click continue. And it says, hey, yeah, your sample data matched because that is the input I had in the form. So I'm going to click close. Great. And now I'm going to create my deal. So for Pipedrive, I'm going to create the deal. And now I get to put in all of those inputs exactly as I wanted. So my title is going to be the person name. I can use it from the form or I could use it from one of the previous steps, but I will use it from the form. So it's Amy Anderson, and then it is the company. And then it is the proposal type. Oops. Great. Then next up we have stage. So we said this should be in the retained pipeline. In the new lead stage. Now I want to link this to the organization I created or found, and I also want to link it to the person. So I'm going to link it to those previous steps using those IDs. And then next up we have value, and I'm going to hard code this, right? We said if it's a retainer, it's $5,000, and if it's the other two, it'll be by default $8,500. So I'm just going to hard code that in. And then next up we have source, and now here we can't just put in text because these are single option fields, which is way better for reporting. So you definitely want to have single option fields in Pipedrive when you can. But if I put text in here, the system won't know what it means and will put nothing in this field. So what I need to do is create a conversion table or a lookup table where I convert the inputs that the sales reps gave me in the form. So those ones here, right? These inputs into these IDs that you see available here. So for this, I'm going to actually go back a step. So I'm going to continue and I'm going to skip the test here so it saves my work. And I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to add a lookup step here as step 4. Now, before I add that step, I have to create the table. So I'm going to go back here, and here this table's currently in beta. I'm going to select it. And then here you could click create table. I've also got one kind of pre-set up that I've started here. So this new deal lookup table. So I've added website, that's ID 22. Referral is 23. I'm going to add social is 24. I'm going to also add business booster, which is 44. So those are all of the options I have here. And then in the same table, I can also put in the proposal IDs. So here, using the IDs here in this step, so I've got proposal, the proposal type, retainer is 74, mapping 75, implementation 76. So I'm going to add that here. So 74, 75, and 76. All right, so I have my table. So now back in my automation, I'm going to add that lookup step. So I'm going to select the app Tables by Zapier, and I'm going to find a record. There we go. So find or create a record. And the table is new deal lookup. And then the lookup field, so this one is going to be the form response. And then the lookup value, so for this one, I need to do this as 2 different steps. I'm going to look up the source. So this one is going to be social. So I'm going to test this action. Okay, so I get social and they give me the ID 24, which is what I want. So I like to rename things. They give you a default, but this one is find source ID by using lookup table. Okay. And then I can just copy this. So I'm going to copy this for step 5, and this one is going to be finding the proposal type ID using the lookup table. So I'm going to continue here. Then this is going to be this input. I'm going to test the action. And now I get 74 for this one. Awesome. So now I can go back to my deal creation and scroll on down to the proposal type. So again, here I need to put in a number. So I'm going to do custom input, and it's going to be the proposal type output. So that's going to be this Pipedrive ID 74. And then source, I'm going to again do custom. That's going to be from step 4. And I'm going to input the Pipedrive ID. Click continue, and now I can test this action. And it tells me this is deal ID 149. So going back to Pipedrive, this is deal 147. I'm going to just paste this over, and I'm going to change it to 149 to test my work. And here I can see this is in the retained pipeline in the new lead stage. The value is 5,000, and I've got that the source is social and the proposal type is retainer, compared with this one that was created manually in the standard pipeline, 8,500 as the value, and slightly different proposal type input there. Great. So we've got one path done, right? Now we need to do the proposal type is mapping implementation. So I don't need to recreate everything on that this create deal step. What I can do is I can just duplicate this step. And then over here in the outline, I've got number 9 here. What I can do is just drag and drop this down under this second path. So now if I go back to the path here, so here I need to apply my condition, so I can do that question does not contain retainer. So just the opposite of the other path. So if I continue here, it should tell me, hey, your path wouldn't continue because this input actually is retainer, what you didn't want. Great. That's what I expect. I've programmed that right. And then I've got this create deal in Pipedrive step. I'm going to remove the copy piece of it, and I'm just going to update those few inputs. So the stage needs to be different. So we said that this is going to be in the standard pipeline in the new deal stage, and then the deal value is 8,500 rather than 5,000. So I've made those updates. I can keep all of the other inputs the same. And now I'm going to click continue, and I'm going to retest this action, which it says because it was a copy. And here I see this is deal 150. Awesome. They do go chronological, so that is what I want. So I will put in deal 150 here. And here you see it's in the standard pipeline. 8,500 is the value, and I've got those inputs captured down here below. So now, going back into this path, I've got the create deal. I can remove this step. This just gets created by default. And now I'm ready to publish my automation. So I would name it. I do recommend standard naming convention. More videos about that will be available soon. But I can just do here, we'll do Google form to new deal, new Pipedrive deal. Okay, I would click publish. And then I always recommend testing it. So here I'll put in an example submission, and we will see that automation run in just a moment. So here I have my first submission, and I'm going to go ahead and click submit, and then I'm going to submit another one. And here I have another example, which will end up in the different pipeline. So I want to test both of those paths. So I'm going to click submit here. And then if I go to my pipelines, I can wait and I should see them pop in. And I can also look at the automation history, which I'll show you as well. So here in my retained pipeline, I've got this one, which I just submitted. Value is here. Again, inputs are here. And then in my standard pipeline, if I scroll all the way down, I could also search, but I have this Rachel one, which I submitted with that value and with the details here and the person information here. And if you want to check your automation history in Zapier, what you can do is go to the three dots and then history. And then here you'll see those successful runs. And if you click to open them, you can even see if information was found or if it was created. So if you go to found, it was false. So this was this organization was created. Same is true for the person for both of these instances. But you can even see that your automation is working well in finding versus creating data and all of that good stuff using the automation history.